Seltzer Kings.
Podcasts.
Love, exciting and new.
Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever.
It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships of Bermudan and British Registry.
Real people making bold moves. Unforgettable journeys into life's next chapter. This is the Second Act Podcast.
Every day is a new chance. Mindset on a new path. Anything is possible. Any limit I surpass. Everything is in my grasp. I got tunnel vision with a pickaxe. Life is more fun when you live like there's no strings attached.
Welcome back to the Second Act. Here we are again with another incredible episode about to kick off. And I just wanted to remind myself and share with the audience that starting something new is hard, whether that's a new business, a new habit, a new diet, a new way of being. It tests your resolve. And it's the why of what you're doing that fuels your grit and your perseverance and your willingness to keep pushing forward. So are you willing to push through the hard days to get to where you want to be is the question. And very simply, just to put a little bow on that, are you in it to win it? Whatever it is, how badly do you want it? The first year is a slog. He usually weeds out the weak. The second year really tests your commitment, weeds out the strong. And then things, I believe, start to happen, and other people can probably endorse that line of thinking. I bring all this up because our guest today is passionate about pursuing a music career, and in his early days is hustling to make that happen. Some of you may have noticed a slight change to our intro-outro music. I am particularly excited about it. And so today I am excited to welcome the artist behind it. Today we welcome St. Josh to the show. Born Joshua Young on July 30th, 1998 in Orlando, Florida, St. Josh is a rapper, songwriter, and record producer whose passion for hip-hop began early, inspired by legends like Eminem, Lil Wayne, and Young Jeezy. Turning to music during times of social isolation in middle school, he discovered its power for self-expression and set a bold goal at just 11 years old: to create music that inspires and uplifts others as his idols did for him. Today, St. Josh is a celebrated artist and entrepreneur, leading a thriving production team that creates custom music for brands. His unique hip-hop compositions have been trusted by major names such as the NFL, Garena Free Fire, Auburn University, and Natural Intelligence, among others. Although early in his professional career, St. Josh already has over 100 successful brand collaborations, including through popular tech platforms like Upwork, where he has become known for crafting impactful and tailored music solutions. Committed to using his own platform for good, St. Josh's mission is to inspire, educate, and empower others through music, leaving a legacy of creativity and purpose. Welcome to the show, Saint.
Wow. I'm really glad to be here, man. It's an honor. I've been looking forward to this ever since I worked on the song. So this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's always weird hearing your own bio intro and like, hey, that's not me. I mean, just tone it down there, tone it down. But no, you should be proud of the things that you've done so early in your career. And even for this podcast, I was amazed that you were able to take just a few thoughts and ideas and what we were using before to create something custom for us. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man. I'm super excited. And like when I first saw the listing, I was super into it, like, because it was right up my alley. The reference song was an artist that I already like and listen to, so it was just, I immediately felt connected, and that's why I was like, man, I got to reach out and let them know that I'm interested in doing this. And yeah, man, like you said with the intro, that's like my story in a nutshell, pretty much. So it's very cool.
It's cool, and it's only going to continue to grow, and you'll have to probably replace some of those highlights with even bigger highlights as your career blossoms. I've got kind of a funny a funny story about a friend of mine in high school who I haven't probably talked to or crossed paths with since high school, who also wanted to pursue a music career. And I grew up in Miami as a teenager in the mid to late 90s. And the area he was most interested in at the time was DJing. He wanted to be a DJ. And there was a DJ named DJ Craze, who he admired quite a bit. And somehow we figured out a way to meet up with DJ Craze and for him to learn from DJ Craze, who had won some DJ competitions. And he went on to become a DJ champion in his respective areas and then pursued his music career and is now I think a big music producer out in California. So the road is there. It's probably not the easiest road to travel, but it's certainly a cool one for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's pretty awesome to hear that because it is a process, man. There's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of background stuff that people don't realize. They just see like the wins and certain things, and they're like, oh yeah, but they don't realize a lot of the commitment and time and consistency that really goes into a music career, especially because it's not like a traditional career. There's a lot of things that have to happen. There's a lot of network building. There's a lot of trial and error, failures, mistakes that you have to just keep doing and keep overcoming, and that's that's pretty much it.
Being an artist, a producer like yourself, and then some of those business aspects that you're describing, it can sometimes be sort of like a yin and yang relationship, right? Like there's the commercialization of things,
Yeah,
which are the business. How do I make money to make a living doing what I love without that coming at the expense of being an artist and being true to what I want to produce and what I'm passionate about and finding those new streams of inspiration and things you want to put
yeah.
out in the world. So just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something that I feel like anybody pursuing music has to realize is that there's two sides, like mentioning. There's the artistic side, and then there's the business side. And to really be successful and to be able to do what you love to do, you have to be able to maximize those business skills. The relationship building, marketing, promotion, anything like that. Because at the end of the day, music really is a business, so it's important to have that same mindset like all business because you got to put yourself out there, you got to connect with people, and I think that's actually one of the most important things is just the relationship building
Yeah.
in whatever sector of music it is. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. It's amazing how much connection plays a role in all dimensions of life and business and your personal life. And those relationships, John had previously used an analogy of planting seeds, and you don't know what that's going to grow into at some point in the future. I've reconnected with people who have only met in passing after like a decade in a 15-minute conversation it was that we met, and somehow some way there was like some spark that ignited the memory bank, and
Yeah.
we remembered the conversation and just willing to help each other out and where we are in our lives and see where we can go next. And yeah, and you just continue to foster those things and see where they lead without really any expectation. I mean, I think if you go into it with like, hey, I like what you're doing, seem like a cool person, and
Yeah.
if that relationship is sort of symbiotic in that way, maybe there's ways to help each other personally, professionally, who knows? But it's just a cool journey.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you said there because it's so important for people to be really, I feel like, genuine and authentic in their approach. And don't look at opportunities like, what can I just get from this person or what can I take? Think about really building a relationship with somebody because ultimately that's what it's really about is those connections are really friendships. And I like to say, like, friends do favors, not strangers. Getting to know somebody and really getting to know the person behind everything you do. And that is why I've had success on like Fiverr, Upwork, and the freelancing platforms because every time a client comes through, I really treat their project like it's my own project. So it's super important to foster those relationships and have, work on your people skills because that is the heart of the business and, being successful. So,
Yeah, life is too short to have these sort of superficial transactional relationships. It takes a lot of relationships take time and energy, and you only have so much of that. So,
yeah.
pick the people you wanna spend the time with and travel the journey with, and yeah, and just see where it goes with, like you said, just no expectations of anything from anybody, but maybe something will happen.
Yeah, for sure. Like I love what you said earlier about like just liking somebody's story and seeing if they're cool and wanting to just chat with them. I feel like that is one thing that I've learned even most recently. It's something I continue to see again and again that every time I focus on that, it tends to convert more. Like there's times where I pitch myself and then I don't hear anything back. But then sometimes I will literally just be interested and compliment somebody, and then they will literally investigate me. They'll be like, "Oh, I went and listened to your music. I would love to talk about like," it's crazy because it's like the opposite. I'm like, "Whoa!" When I'm pitching myself, I'm not always getting a reply, but sometimes when I'm literally just genuinely interested, they will be like, "Man, I heard your music or whatever," and then they want to talk to me, and it kind of shifts it shifts the attention, and it's pretty crazy.
It's so funny how that works, and I'm convinced that a lot of the best things happen because other things didn't happen. So you're pitching
Yeah.
yourself, you're not hearing back, you're not getting responses on something you're hopeful was gonna work out, and a little bit of time goes by, and in hindsight, you're like, "Man, I'm really glad that that person didn't become a customer. I didn't do that thing because I wouldn't have
Yep.
had these other opportunities over here."
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one thing too, especially with mindset, is to never let like a failure or a missed opportunity derail you. Don't let it defeat you because oftentimes, like you're saying, I feel like there's reasons that those things happen, and it's often to lead you to something that was better and more meant for you, anyways. And it's
100%.
like, that the segue is so important. So just anytime you have those setbacks or whatever, just keep looking forward and keep, trying to push the needle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the whole premise for us and starting to introduce guests is because we wanted to learn their story and build connection and build a community of people who are on their second act, which is more of an idea of just trying something new than the
Yeah.
literal form of like your second act. Like people who are willing to take a risk, try something new, enjoy the journey and see what happens. And through this process, we would have never met Saint. So it's
Yeah, exactly.
and I wouldn't have get to hear your story offline that I want to tell more of here, and we wouldn't have had this awesome new intro music.
Yeah, I
But
appreciate it.
let's talk a little bit about growing up. You grew up in Florida. Tell me about some of the memorable moments from your childhood, the music, and how that all started, and we go from there.
Yes. So I'm from, I was born in Orlando, but I grew up in Kissimmee, that's where I'm still at, by the way. And, I have two older brothers. Each of us are about 5 years apart, and I'm the youngest. And so, I was always the baby in the family, and I would always have these brothers. They would be, doing things that I wanted to be doing, but I was too young. And, they would be listening to music like my middle brother name's Garrett, and he was super into hip hop and stuff. And I really wanted to be like him a lot. So, he kind of dressed that way. And then I started dressing that way, trying to be like my older brother. And that's kind of how it happened. And, he kind of got me into hip hop. And then my oldest brother, his name's Jake. Same thing with him. He was listening to hip hop and stuff. So just kind of being exposed to my brothers is kind of what got me into it. And then, I just loved it so much. And going into my like childhood, there were some times at school and stuff where I was really shy, and because I was always around older people, I didn't really know how to interact with people my age or share necessarily like similar interests. So it was a little hard for me sometimes to like try to talk to people and stuff. And that was where I really connected with music because I was like, man, I I really love the fact that I can express myself, that I can, kind of put all my feelings and things that I wasn't sharing with people into my music, and it really let me express myself. And that's kind of how it started was through that.
That's awesome. Now, are your brothers they were into hip hop, are they pursuing a career like you, or they
Oh,
sort of gone into different
um,
directions?
they have went into different directions.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's just crazy because I was the only one that was really ever like, immediately I'm gonna do this. This is what I want to do.
Okay.
Like for me, it was really the first act for for me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So,
Yeah.
but I love the whole concept of the second act because it's so important for people to chase their dreams and to take new adventures. And if that's what you want to do, if you feel like that's your calling, then just do it because you don't get a second opportunity, right? You don't want to look back 30 years from now and be like, man, I should have done that. Just start doing
Exactly.
it. Yeah, start doing it. Even 15 minutes a day or whatever, man. It's so important. It's one step at a time.
One step at a time. And you said you were a little bit of a shyer kid, and you use music as an outlet to break out of that sort of shyness element of your persona. And I've heard artists they think of almost like a character out there, that like
Yeah.
I'm this character producing this music, singing this song or whatever, but sort of the other side of their character is that like shy person who doesn't talk to many people, who just
Yeah.
is sort of like a homebody. So how
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
walk through sort of the moment where you started to get into mixing and mastering and producing things, and starting to like embrace not just music as a consumer of music, but as like I want to start to create music.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So, technically, I wrote my first ever rap song at 6 years old, and it was on, yeah, 6 years old. It was on paper. It wasn't any good, but that's where it started. That was like the spark. And then years later, when I was 11, that was when I was in middle school. I think I was in sixth grade, and I was really feeling like I told you, kind of quiet. And like you said, music kind of became my like it made me feel confident. It made me feel it's almost like that mask you put on. Now you're brave now. It's like, but yeah, man. So I started. I was listening to Eminem, Lil Wayne, and Young Jeezy. Those were probably my three biggest influences. And I remember they had dropped some songs that year. I think it was a song called like "Drop the World" and "No Love" around that time, 2010, 2011, somewhere in that range. But those songs really connected with me, and I remember just sitting like in my chair like after school one day, and just like, man, this is what I want to do for a living. I want to tell stories like these guys do. I loved the music. I loved the rhyme. So that's where it started. I was 11 years old, and that it immediately clicked, and I started writing verses. From about 11 to 14 was really like the bulk of learning how to write lyrics. And then from 14 to about 17, 18, it was learning how to flow because now I knew how to write, but now I needed to be able to rap on a beat.
Yeah.
And then from about 18 to 22 was really learning how to convey and perform. And like now I could rap and flow, but now I needed to be able to tell that story and make it more convincing and really put that performance aspect into it. So that's what I spent those years doing. And then also during that time, I was learning how to record. I'd went to some studios. I had this guy, a friend named Sean. He's like in a band that tours and stuff. So he kind of brought me in under his wing and taught me some stuff, got into the studio, ended up getting my own equipment. So I was just doing a lot of recording at home and going out. We were driving about like to Daytona, about like 90 minutes, 2 hours away, just so I could record. Like it is crazy. So those 4 years were that. And then from basically 22 until now, and I'm 26, has been the other parts, is learning the business, learning how to really build those relationships and learning about how the industry works. Because most people think, once you have talent or you have something, a product that's ready, it's going to immediately just go. But in today's market, it's so competitive. There's so many people. So you really have to kind of create your own lane and have something unique about yourself that stands out so you can, get to that next level and, carve a lane for yourself.
Yeah, I don't know what has made it so competitive. I don't know if it's technology or just more people sort of interested in pursuing that kind of career combination of things. The barriers to entry are lower, so more competition comes in, and more competition is always coming in because of that. So it makes it harder to pursue a passion. But if you're thinking about the different dimensions like you are in the right way, I think if you're committed, it increases the probability of success. It can't guarantee success, but it increases the probability. If you're, like you said, if you're taking the right step each day, it should lead to something that sort of falls under the umbrella
Yeah.
of what you value.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I did with my story. It's kind of, I pivoted, because I used to have this really closed mindset where I was like, man, I have to be this world famous artist day one. Like, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I'm going to come out the gate and be like Taylor Swift big or something. But the reality is that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You have to develop yourself. You got to start a lot of times smaller before you can get to that level. Maybe unless you have an uncle or dad that works at some big,
Sure.
a big label or something. But for most people, that's not the case. And you really got to just be consistent and literally just take every day one step at a time, continually working. Like, so for me, I started out right as an artist, just making like my own original music. And then I'm like, okay, I wasn't having much success with that because back then I didn't know how to really market myself. So what I did was I turned to like the freelancing sites and I'm like, well, maybe I could monetize my skill sets. So that's what I did is I started, doing features and custom songs and, writing and providing all of the experience that I had. And then I was able to start making some money from what I love to do. And that's kind of what has led me to where I'm at today is because I expanded my mindset and I'm like, there's more than one way to make a successful living or career in music industry. So, you have so many different little sectors of the industry. You got like the recording industry with like your big artists who are selling and, touring, all that. Then you got your sync music, which is where music goes into licensing. And then brands will use it for like commercials and movies. And then you got custom music. So that's when like a brand needs like something specific for maybe a jingle or a theme song. And so, and there's more too, that's
Yeah.
just the bulk. That's just the bulk where I focus. But that's what I'm saying is, there is a synergy between all of them because the more successful that you do in one, the more time and energy you have to devote to the others as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because the things that you're doing repeatedly hypothetically become easier because
Yeah.
you're doing them. They almost become a habit, and you're sort of in the flow of creating that type of product, if you will, for the consumer. And then because that gets easier, you potentially free up some time to do some of the other things that you're passionate about that haven't really taken off.
Yeah.
But there's some potential there.
Yeah. For sure. It allows you to make that segue. Like, and that's the thing that I would always recommend for anybody too, is to not try to do 100 things at once, but focus on 1 to 2 things that you're really good at. Focus on your star power and then build from there. And once you have built and have some, legitimacy and brand viability, whatever you want to call it, once you have some of that in the door, then you can begin to, focus on some of the other areas that you wanted to expand instead of trying to do everything immediately. That's the one thing I notice a lot with new people is they might have a million ideas and it's really hard to take off that way. You got to
Yeah.
focus on your star power.
This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV, it's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
At LinkedIn, we know hiring is a big deal for your small business. Sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming. LinkedIn uses data that you can't find anywhere else to give you the best candidates, all so you can feel confident you're hiring the best person for the job. And even a little hiring bliss. See why 86% of small businesses who post a job on LinkedIn get a qualified candidate within a day. Post a job for free at linkedin.com/achieve. LinkedIn, your next great hire is here.
Now you said you started with lyrics and then you developed the flow. So
Yeah.
lyrics and flow for us non-musicians, music artists out there, help make the distinction there for for us.
Yes, awesome. So lyrics are the words. Lyrics is like what you're actually saying, the diction, and then flow is the way that you are basically, delivering it on that beat or instrumental. So it's the way that you are bringing that alive, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how are you with the freestyle skills? It
Uh,
was
I don't do a lot of freestyles. I'll be honest. I don't. I
yeah.
used to, but no, I haven't done freestyles in a long time. But it is something I used to do, and it's interesting.
It's hard. I have always thought it was hard ever since I was a kid, and I heard that Jay-Z is particularly gifted when it comes to freestyling with the beats and instrumentals. I'm sure people can validate or invalidate that, but that's what I've heard. And I just it's a sort of like a magical gift to just like hear the music and then just start spitting words that like
Yeah.
make sense and tell a story like off the top of your mind. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
really amazing to me.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like when I start on a song or a record, like the beginning process does not look pretty, right? It's like I'm rapping out loud and saying things that sometimes don't make sense, but it's just to kind of get that it's like kind of get that direction of where I'm going and knowing which words I'm going to use. And I might start some of the stuff I say will make sense and then I might end it. I'm trying to really figure out the patterns in the pockets or the timing and space on an instrumental to where I want my words to land.
Okay.
And that's where it's like you might start and it might sound like "tut, tut, 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 tut," and then you start putting real things like I'm on the second act with the better reps. Here I come.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it kind of just starts that way and it builds on each
Okay.
song. And then I will take out once I kind of have the rhythm that I want to go with, I'll take out the parts that don't make sense and I'll start replacing it with context that does. And it's kind of like a puzzle. It's like I'm arranging a puzzle, but I
Oh, that's
would
cool.
say it is pretty immediate too. Like, if it's an instrumental or a project I'm really interested in, it's sometimes the songs kind of write themselves. So it's really interesting.
So would you say you feel it or think it more in the process?
If I'm really in tune, it's more of a feel, but there's also times where it is a little like work if it's something I'm maybe not super passionate about. From time to time, there's briefs that I get that might not align with me 100%, but
Mhm.
I'm always trying to challenge myself to be versatile so I can do that, so I can work in these other, kind of subgenres and lanes. So yeah, man, but I would say when you really feel it, if you played an instrumental or beat, I usually have kind of an idea of how I want to approach it, in a matter of seconds, just off the hearing it. So it's pretty
That's
cool.
cool. Have you noticed when those moments happen where you have like that strong feeling and you just sort of get in the groove and it comes out? Like what is happening? Like are you like super excited that day? Is a certain time of day? Like what are the conditions that allow
Yeah.
St. Josh to just get into it and like crush the
Yeah,
music?
yeah, I got you. So for me, I think being in the moment, obviously, like I'm, not thinking about other things, and I'm like, man, I really want to rap right now or something. I really want to create. And for me, I love to create. I love to write in general. Like I do all different types of writing. Like I document so much stuff. Like I'm so nerdy into the stuff I do. But yeah, man, I would say just being in the moment and, if I have sometimes I might go a little bit, like maybe a day or two without writing. And after I go a day or two without writing, I'm usually right back into like, man, I gotta create. And it's
Okay.
pretty like it's like this addiction almost. It's like I have to go back and I have to express it somehow. It's like it really is this like I will literally feel it in my body. It's like, man, you gotta go in and you gotta write something, you gotta create something. And if it goes more than a day or 2 without doing it, then I'm fiending to get back.
So
Pretty much, yeah.
it's a passion slash obsession, and you just
Yeah,
want it's. I mean, that's great because that's the fuel to sort of keep you going,
for sure.
and I love that. Is there? There's not like something external that sparks like, hey, I just went on a. Some people like get their inspiration and ideas when they exercise or go for a
Oh,
walk in
okay.
nature, or they just had a like awesome time with their buddies hanging out. They're coming back and they got all kinds of things top of mind. Like,
Yes, I
are
see what you're
there
saying.
experiences like that that help you, or is it just sort of all within you that just in that moment it just comes?
No, there's definitely some outside sources like that you're talking about. Like for me personally, and it's probably different for every artist
Sure.
and songwriter, but for me, it comes a lot through like I feel inspired through conversations like that I'll have with friends or family. I'll have inspiration through movies and TV shows that I watch.
Okay.
And especially if I ever watch like any of my favorite artists or celebrities, like if I go and start watching like Eminem in the studio or Nas in the studio and these guys that I look up to, like if I watch their documentaries and things, that is probably the most like it when I watch that stuff, like I feel like what am I doing? Like and even listening to music from my favorite artists, like Kendrick Lamar's the artist I like and he just dropped an album. And I listened to a few songs of his new album, and I couldn't even, like, continue listening because I felt so inspired. I had to just, like, turn his music off for a little bit and then go write,
Yeah,
like, some of my own music and then come back after I, like, wrote, and I felt like,
I love
"Alright,
it.
I had to get that out." Yeah.
And you, I think offline when we had a conversation, you mentioned an affinity for some of the older hip hop, like the stuff that
Yeah.
I sort of grew up with, like Wu-Tang Clan, Tribe Called Quest,
Yep.
Nas, Outkast.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of, I mean, there's a bunch of them, but Dr. Dre was popular back then. Obviously, the Biggie versus Tupac, East Coast, West
Yeah,
Coast thing going on in the 90s. All that,
for sure.
Method Man. Yeah,
Yeah.
the reason I'm asking about this is why those artists versus some of the newer, and how did that influence you becoming Saint Josh, and like what's the story behind Saint Josh if they're
Okay.
connected?
Yes, yeah. So for me, I love hip hop. Like I love the art of rhyming. I love the art of telling a story through rhymes and painting a picture verbally. And I appreciate lyricism from all genres, but I'm just so connected to hip hop because I love how raw it is. I love like it's very direct and I love that about it. And so like part of the reason why I'm so influenced by the older generation hip hop like Nas and Method Man and a lot of those East Coast guys I really like and respect. The reason I feel so connected is because I felt that the hip hop and music was so pure at that time, like in the early 90s and late 80s and even some of the early 2000s. It felt so much more genuine, right? It's like these guys were writing and making music because that's what they love to do. That's what they were passionate about. And I feel like today's market has become so about just monetization and like it's only a business and people are only looking at it as like a money bag or something. And I don't connect with that. Like, I connect with really telling a story and just loving the art and the sport itself, and that's why I'm so on par with guys like Nas because I love and resonate with their messaging, especially, some of those guys because it had a really they might have talked about things that were negative and, bad environments and stuff, but it was more of like a uplifting undertone and like it was kind of like telling you about what was going on versus like promoting it or glorifying it, which I feel like today there's so much negative aspects in music, especially hip hop, that are very like, bad with drugs or whatever it may be, crime, and it feels more like a glorification now. But back then, it was just kind of telling you about the environment they were in, and that's why I resonate so much with the older guys because it was just a pure. I felt like it was a more pure, more authentic time for the music.
Yeah, I don't recall the lyrics exactly, but I do remember the lyrics being their story about coming from or living through these disadvantaged circumstances, and the music allowed them to move out of that
Yeah,
and start to gain some of the things that they were hoping to achieve in life. And they told that with sort of not always a happy ending, but it
yeah,
was a happy ending ish type of part to the story they were telling through the music.
yeah.
And it was that lived experience, like you said. And, I was very much a fan of that, along with some of the other music that was emerging at the time, not hip
Yeah.
hop, but in the place that I grew up. And yeah, it was. It's always been more about the beats and the instrumentals and the way the music made me feel versus the lyrics. The lyrics came second for me. I wanted music that like energized me, and so I can know almost immediately if music's going to energize me or not. And then if there's some cool lyrics, I may or may not relate to them, but it's that artist's voice coming through whatever else they're producing along with that song.
Yeah. And that's really interesting to hear too, because for me, I'm the other way around. Like the
Yeah,
lyrics were the number one thing to me, and then everything else was secondary. And
interesting.
that's why I got kind of so into the Saint Josh, and I'll tell that
Yeah,
story too.
yeah,
But
yeah.
for me, my mission as an artist and as a creator, entrepreneur, whatever you want to call me, is really I want to inspire, help, and motivate others through music. And I feel like music has the most potential to do that because I feel like musicians and artists is so impactful on culture and kids and even
Yeah.
adults. There's so many people that look as like those are their biggest influences, are their favorite artists a lot of times. So that is why it's like, man, I really want to push my agenda with, can I give them a better alternative? Can I have better messages? I really think about the impact that my music will have, and how it's going to affect the listener. And I really want and strive to be a role model. And that's kind of why I chose the name Saint Josh, is because a saint is somebody that, is giving back and
Yeah.
helping others and uplifting their community. And that's really what I want to do. Like my ultimate goal through music is to be essentially a philanthropist and, humanitarian
Oh,
and
very
literally
nice.
just helping people. Like so I love to see when people make it, like you mentioned a second ago, where they make it and you kind of see that happy-ish ending with
Hmm.
guys like Nas and stuff who have been able to overcome where they grew up,
Yeah.
the crime, all the negative influences, and they have been able to overcome and uplift the people around them. And I want to do the same thing. And, that's really my goal, man. It's just to have a positive impact on the people around me and the world. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite an ambitious goal, but I love it. And
Yeah.
music is so fascinating because everyone, when they're listening to it, for one, it's been around, since the dawn of mankind. No other sort of medium
Absolutely.
has. And it combines like the way you feel, like it gives you a feeling, and then you are sort of forced to imagine whatever it is you want to imagine
Yep.
related to that music. It doesn't tell you what to imagine, although it can through the lyrics, but it doesn't have to. I think that's a conscious choice as a listener, and it doesn't prescribe what that looks like, even if you're trying to process the lyrics and the music together and come up with some sort of vision of what that is. It doesn't say this is what it is. It's just here's the words and the sounds. You come up with whatever that looks like
Yeah.
in your own mind, which is kind of a cool. It's so different from everything else. Like if you watch a movie with music and scripts and actors and everything, it's sort of like telling you this is the way it's going to look with the actors and the scenes and everything. Music doesn't do that. It
Yeah.
it sort of guides you in a way, but it doesn't prescribe what that
Yeah.
is. Am I
Yeah.
making
I see.
sense or am I
Yeah.
talking
I see
nutty?
what you're saying. I definitely see what you're saying, man. There is definitely more interpretation in music.
That's the word, interpretation. Thank you.
Interpretation, yeah. I think it definitely depends on the type of music or the type of songs, because there is a lot of intention too. Like me, I have a lot of intention, but there is a lot of artists and a lot of songs that I can think of that are perfectly what you're describing. Like I absolutely believe that, it can be interpreted 3, 4 different ways, and it just depends on I feel like the style of the writing, how the artist is conveying it, what's their overall goal or message of it. Some music is really open-ended, it's very broad, and then some music is really specific and stuff like that. So I feel like it just depends, but yeah, I definitely see that more in music than in movies and stuff.
Yeah, awesome. And you mentioned Saint, you wanted to put out good in the world. So tell us, you've worked with some big brands. You're playing the field really with
Yeah.
how you can create and deliver on these different platforms, maybe some things off the platforms through your relationships. How's that going, and what kind of exciting things are happening that you would want to share with our audience?
Yeah, so basically right now I'm working on custom music for different companies. Like today I just wrapped up this project for a toy brand, and this toy brand is inside of like Barnes and Nobles, Books A Million and stuff. And it's like a plush toy, so you press the toy and then the music will play. And their name's Punchkins, by the way. So they're really cool. And it's crazy because it happened also through Upwork. And
Wow.
that's just one of the things I do is just helping brands like that. Recently, I also had some music used by the NFL for the draft. I think it was the 2024 draft, where the new
Nice.
players are coming in. And they also do this like annual rookie series. I forgot it's like, Hey Rookie, welcome to the NFL. Had some music used for that. And then for like some of the brands that you mentioned earlier in the introduction, like Garena, Free Fire, they're a really big mobile video game. They were actually in the top 10 of all downloaded apps or games in the
Wow.
world in 2019.
No way.
Auburn, I did a custom song for their basketball team, for the men's basketball team. And it's crazy fun story with Auburn too, because we never got to publicly put it out. Like we did everything. We did, I made the song, worked with the creative team, and then the administration didn't get around to it in time. So I got paid and everything and just never got to use it. And what happened is they lost in the playoffs and
Yeah.
just never got to use it. And then I did Waterboy, which is a hydration company.
Okay.
And I did a song for them for their product placement and announcement into Target
Nice.
superstores. So those are just some of the big projects I do.
Yeah.
And I do that on probably a weekly basis. And I'm trying to just connect with
Okay.
more for people that need, intros, theme songs, jingles, similar.
Yep.
I love it. I love to create, man. And my goal right now is to really, really keep building into that. And I'm in the process of starting my own full production company because right
Nice.
now I'm more of a solopreneur kind of, I do
Yeah.
a lot of, but I have people that I work with on like a lot of projects. So I pretty much function like a business already. It's just, I
Sure.
just want to make it more formal. So my plan overall is to keep making music, right, as an artist, and then build my production company and do more of the custom stuff, and then also simultaneously pushing with sync. So it's those three things, and there's a synergy there, and that's kind of how I do it.
I love it. Bit by bit,
Awesome.
it's coming
Yeah.
together, and I love seeing it. So early in your career, some cool stuff going on, St. Josh, and I love what you put together for us. And we always like to ask our guests for our audience, especially our audience who's contemplating or just starting out, what parting advice you would like to share with them as we start to wrap things up here.
Yes. So my advice would be if there's something you want to do, you should really just do it. Go for it. Start taking the actions behind it. If you have dreams, that's awesome, but you need to really, take those dreams and turn them into goals and then create actionable steps that you can like create a vision board. Let's say you wanted to do music. Well, write down 5 to 10 things that would be connected that you can start taking steps to do that. Real actions that you can do. And it's just a matter of doing those every day and over time, that's gonna build, and you'll see progress in that. And I have a vision board, and I track everything that I do. And it's crazy because if you go look at it after like 6 months or a year, and you see how many things that you've actually checked off, it's pretty crazy. So just start taking the steps. Believe in yourself. I think confidence is one of the most important things. You got to believe in yourself because in the beginning, no one else will. So you really need to believe in yourself, like almost to a level that might even be a little delusional.
Yeah.
But over time, if you apply the practice and the work, it will become true. If you said, like, this is how my story started is when I was 11, I said, man, I'm the best rapper in the world. And that was 11. And I'm like, man, I'll do Eminem on a song, right? All of these things that were not true,
Yeah.
right? But it was these super ambitious delusions that I started applying and taking steps so they could be true. And that's the thing is I've now seen so much progress through that. And being able to take, some feedback and stuff along the way is important because I had my brothers and my brother's friends who were really hard on me because I was trying to make an impression with these guys who are 5, 10 years older than me.
Mhm.
And, he's a rapper and stuff. So they were blunt. They were hard on me and it hurt my feelings sometimes. And it did. But that hard love is what made me such a beast at it. It made me want to prove them wrong. Cause I remember going to them and showing them songs and stuff. And they'd be like, man, this sucks. And stuff like that. So,
I love it.
but after continuously doing it, that gave me the fuel and the momentum where I was like, I kept writing and kept writing and kept writing. And literally, like, then I started showing them new stuff and they'd be like, man, it's actually pretty decent. And over time, man, that's actually really good. Then they'd be like, mind blown. And then it was every song I showed them and they were mind blown. So it's just a matter of not taking no for an answer and just literally carving my own way. So I would recommend anybody else to do the same. And like we said earlier, there is so much competition and stuff, but it doesn't matter. It does not matter. You need to, if it's what you want to do, then take the steps to make it happen. Because I truly believe, this is my belief, that the 1 in 1 million person who made it is the person that worked harder than the other 900,000. I
Yeah.
really believe that.
The delusional confidence and the work
Yeah.
ethic, like those two things combined, can take you to like really interesting places. It's
For sure.
And we all, probably overestimate what we can do in the short term and
Yeah.
underestimate what we can do in the long term.
Absolutely.
If you just stay committed to it. I love it.
Yeah.
If people want to find you, if they're like, hey, I've got a brand jingle or I need some music, how can they reach out to you, get in touch with you?
Yeah, so a few ways. So I'm on all social media as at St. Josh Music, and then also my website is stjoshmusic.com.
Okay.
And I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm pretty much on everything. And just reach out to me, send a message. I'm also on Spotify and Apple Music if you're interested in hearing some of the stuff I've done as an artist as St. Josh. And yeah, man, I would love it. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll definitely be sure to include it in the show notes for anybody who wants to get in touch. And hopefully everyone has enjoyed our intro music and they're soon to hear the outro music as we wrap this episode up. But Josh, Saint, I think your buddies call you.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be working together on maybe some other cool projects as time goes on. But I thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your story and educating me on some of the music process and the music industry. It's really interesting. And Marco, if you're out there listening, maybe here's an up-and-coming artist for you to take a look at.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Saint.
Every day is a new chance, mindset on a new path. Anything is possible, any limit I surpass. Everything is in my grasp, I got tunnel vision with a pickaxe. Life is more fun when you live like there's no strings attached. On to the finer things, no diamond rings, just greener grass. My work ethic is unmatched, setting milestones, hearing dial tones. Yeah, but I keep calling back. Yeah, I'm on that second act. If money talks, need a bank vault with a podcast. Yeah, I will not fall into the trap. I will evolve, I will impact. I got resolve, I just attack. I just stay mauling all these tracks, working like a dog till my wallet is fat and my stacks is taller than Shaq. Hey. Every day is a new chance, mindset on a new path. Anything is possible, any limit I surpass. Everything is in my grasp, I got tunnel vision with a pickaxe. Life is more fun when you live like there's no strings attached. I am on another level, my mode is heavy metal. I sold to the grind, so I know I'll never settle. My foot glued to that pedal, full speed, I'm breaking through, unstoppable and relentless, yeah. Just look at my schedule, I built a mountain with all of these pebbles. Yes, they was doubting, I had no choice but upset them. Best in the business, I just need the business connections. Yeah, I deal with rejection, upset all my critics and build the momentum, let's get it.
The second act with Michael and John stars Michael Newborn and John Ballinger. The podcast is produced by Seltzer Kings. For more information on the show, check out michaelandjohn.com, or if you'd like to get involved in the conversation, give the guys a shout on their socials at The Second Act Movement on most platforms. Thanks for listening.
Seltzer Kings
Podcasts.